Shri Shri Radhe. So Vaishnav Jai Shri Krishna, continuing today with our recital of the stories of the 252 Vaishnav disciples of Sri Gosaiji, beginning today with part 1 in Varta 163, the story of one Kshatriya from the east. Sri Gosaiji set off on his journey to Sri Jagannath Puri for the holy site of Lord Jagannathji. The Kshatriya heard of this. He took everything that he had in his house and set off to meet Sri Gosaiji. He arrived in Jagannath Puri and went to Sri Gosaiji, whom he supplicated, "O Maharaj, please bless me by taking me into your shelter." Sri Gosaiji recognized this deep spiritual longing and granted him initiation with the Lord's name, and after telling him to fast for a day, granted him the Brahmasambandh initiation too. The Kshatriya then asked, "O Maharaj, where does my duty now lie?" Sri Gosaiji told him that he should now serve Sri Thakurji. The Kshatriya piped up, "O Maharaj, I live alone. How will it be possible for me to make suitable seva to the Lord? Therefore, please employ me in your seva. I shall accompany you to Vraja, and I will also have the holy site of Sri Govardhanaji." Sri Gosaiji agreed. The Kshatriya Vaishnav then donated everything he had with him to Sri Gosaiji and thereafter stayed with Sri Gosaiji. He did whatever service he saw needed to be done and did whatever he did very nicely. He would partake of Mahaprasad only after the completion of his duties. Sri Gosaiji then proceeded to Gokul. The Kshatriya Vaishnav accompanied him there too. They stayed like this for many days. Then one afternoon Sri Gosaiji rode on his horse to Srinathadwara. The Kshatriya Vaishnavas also set off to follow him. Sri Gosaiji arrived at the time for the afternoon Uttapan Seva, but the Kshatriya Vaishnava was on foot and fell behind, so he did not arrive until after the Seva had been completed, up to the Lord's taking rest for the night. Kshatriya Vaishnava felt extremely sad, thinking, "Today I have come here for the first time. I did not get here in time to have the holy sight of the Lord." He decided that he would not eat until he had had the Lord's sight. He sat down outside near the gate and feeling very sad about missing the Lord's holy sight. Srinathji was unable to tolerate his grief. In the middle of the night, Srinathji himself took his water pitcher and snack box out of the temple to where the Kshatriya Vaishnava was sitting. Sri Govardhanaji said to him softly, "O Vaishnava, now you can see me." The Kshatriya Vaishnava joyfully gazed upon the Lord, who gave him his water pitcher and snack box to the Vaishnava and said to him, "Please accept this Mahaprasadi water and snacks." He then returned to his temple. The Kshatriya Vaishnava gladly accepted the prasad. He drank water from the Lord's pitcher. He was already tired from his journey and was also hungry, and he felt very tired as he was honouring the prasad. He put the water pitcher and the snack box down right there, then went a little way to one side and there fell asleep, up on the mountain as he was. He only got up when the conch shell was sounded in the early morning. After Sri Govardhanaji had been outside, he re-entered his temple, leaving the doors open. When Sri Gosaiji had bathed and came to the temple for his seva, he saw that the doors were open. Sri Gosaiji then told the temple servants to check if anything was missing. When he went inside, they noticed that the water pitcher and the snack box were not in their place. When he had made the breakfast offerings, he came outside. At that moment, the Kshatriya Vaishnava came to see Sri Gosaiji. He prostrated before Sri Gosaiji and presented the water pitcher and the snack box to him. Sri Gosaiji inquired how they had come to be in his possession. The Vaishnava humbly replied that Srinathji had come to him in the night and given them to him. He told Sri Gosaiji the whole story. Sri Gosaiji immediately summoned the cook and the kitchen servants and told them, "Whenever this Vaishnava needs Mahaprasad, you must give it to him." He also told the Vaishnava, "Whenever you are hungry, please ask for Anasakari Prasad. Please now do whatever seva you can." After some more days, Sri Gosaiji went back to Gokul. The Kshatriya Vaishnava remained in Srinathadwara. He served Srinathji very nicely and with great affection and with his whole heart. The Lord was always pleased with him. After serving so nicely for a long time, the Vaishnava left his body. Through the blessings of Sri Gosaiji, he entered the eternal Leela. He attained a divine body. His physical body collapsed, and he entered the Leela with the divine body. The cooks and inner servants of Srinathji saw this with their own eyes. When Sri Gosaiji returned to Srinathadwara, the servants told him all about it. Sri Gosaiji was very pleased when he heard this news and said, "The Lord regards even a tiny bit of seva as a great deal. See how fortunate this Vaishnava was." Sri Gosaiji graced him endlessly after just a short time. Bhav Prakash, the moral of this story is that the beloved Lord is soon pleased when the devotee has a burning desire to meet him. The Vaishnavas should cultivate intense longing for him. It is also revealed here that the Lord considers even a tiny amount of seva to be an abundant amount. Thus concludes Varta 163, the story of the Kshatriya Vaishnava from the East, who was the recipient of Sri Gosaiji's great grace and an accomplished Vaishnava. There is truly no end to his tale. Varta 164, the story of a man from another path who ate on the cremation ground. Part 1. One day, a small group of Vaishnavas got together in Gokul and began to discuss, "Oh brother, at this moment in time, Sri Gosaiji is so powerful that anyone, however sinful or hypocrite, will be purified of all their sinful activity and character simply by taking refuge in him." Within that group of Vaishnavas was sitting a man who followed a different path, who piped up, "Oh Vaishnavas, if what you say is true, then please arrange for me to take shelter in Sri Gosaiji, for I have performed many sinful activities. May my sins be wiped out, and then I will believe what you say." The Vaishnavas said, "Please accompany us today." They then took that man with them and went to Srinatadwara to see Sri Gosaiji. They all prostrated before him. They put the news before Sri Gosaiji. "O Maharaj, this man is from another path. He is requesting that he might be accepted into your fold and take shelter in you." Sri Gosaiji addressed the man, "Please bathe and then come back to me. I will initiate you with the Lord's name. After that you may do as you please, but know one thing. Once you take refuge in me, I shall never abandon you." Bhav Prakash. The lesson learnt here is that, in this path of grace, when an embodied soul takes shelter in the Lord, he never under any circumstance abandons them. This path of grace proceeds from the Lord himself, and he is not judgmental of the embodied soul's actions, rather of their heartfelt refuge in him. Sri Gosaiji is none different from the Supreme Person, and that is why he spoke in this manner. Part 1 continued. He bathed, returned, and made his request to Sri Gosaiji to be initiated with the Lord's name. Sri Gosaiji did so. Then he bathed and went into his Seva in Srinathji's temple. Soon the doors opened for the holy sight of the Lord at the lunchtime Seva. All the Vaishnavas went there, and so did this new initiate. When Sri Gosaiji had completed Srinathji's Seva, he descended from Sri Giriraj and came to sit in his betak. He was sitting there comfortably. All the Vaishnavas came to have his sight, and then they all went home. The new Vaishnava then offered Sri Gosaiji a donation after prostrating before him. Sri Gosaiji invited him to partake of Mahaprasad there. Sri Gosaiji himself went to partake, and when he had finished he ate a pan brida and then, with his own hands, served the Vaishnavas with some Mahaprasadi leftovers from his plate. The Vaishnavas ate his prasad. He asked Sri Gosaiji permission to leave and then went home to Gokul. When he reached home, he decided to test Sri Gosaiji. He went and sat on the cremation ground. There he used a funeral fire to cook bread and beans and sat down to eat them. As he did, he pondered, "Now let's see how Sri Gosaiji can save me from my sinful activities." Part 2. There was a king who lived in another part of the country. He had terrible leprosy. He had tried all sorts of remedies, but nothing had worked. Someone advised him that he might be cured if he went on a pilgrimage. He had already spent hundreds of thousands of rupees, but to no avail, so he accepted the idea of going on the tour of the holy spots. After many days of travelling around, he came to Gokul. The trip so far had not brought about any change in his condition. The king then had the sight of Sri Gosaiji. He humbly supplicated, "O Maharaj, I have spent many thousands of rupees, and I have bathed in many holy spots, but I have not found a solution to my illness. You are the Lord himself. I have come to you with this in mind. Only you and no one else is capable of removing my disease. I have no one left to turn to." Hearing this king's humble plea, Sri Gosaiji, who is most compassionate, instructed him, "There is one of my disciples who is living on the cremation ground. Go there and eat the prasadi leftovers from his plate. Then your disease will be cured. The Vaishnava will, however, not be willing to give you his leftovers, so you will have to take them forcefully. Don't hesitate or be worried about doing this." The king then went to the cremation ground, according to Sri Gosaiji's instructions, and approached the Vaishnava, asking to get his leftovers. The Vaishnava would not give them to him, so he grabbed them and ate. As those leftovers reached his innards, the leprosy immediately disappeared. The body was renewed and beautiful. The king was overjoyed. The cremation ground Vaishnava saw how delighted the king was and asked, "Why did you eat my prasadi leftovers?" And the king replied, "Sri Gosaiji had ordered me to come to the cremation ground and eat your leftovers in order to be cured from my disease. I came here because of that was his instruction. I have eaten your leftovers and my disease has been cured." The Vaishnava said, "Oh joy, Sri Gosaiji has remembered me today." He pondered, "Sri Gosaiji is the Lord himself. I have engaged in so many sinful activities, but he is the most compassionate. He has not considered my bad deeds, but has instead made even those to be good actions. He has not abandoned me because of my stupid behaviour. Therefore I should now go to him and ask him to engage me in his seva." He went and bathed, put on some clean clothes, and went to see Sri Gosaiji. He said, "O Maharaj," You are the Supreme Person himself, and I am an impure embodied soul. I have done many sinful deeds, but you are most kind. Please bless me with your grace. So we will continue this story tomorrow. Jai Shri Radhe, Jai Shri Krishna, Sab Vaishnavan ko. Aaj ke Anand ki jai, Shri Gosaiji ki jai. Jai Shri Radhe.